Welcome to PD Connect, connecting the Parkinson's community with resources, information, and each other. Hi, I'm Tanya Walker. I'm joined here today by my husband Chad, and we are so excited to welcome you to our first episode of PD Connect. I'd like to give you a little background about myself. I experienced my first Parkinson's symptom at the age of 32, and it wasn't until 2 years later that I was diagnosed. And I've been living with Parkinson's for 10 years now, and during those 10 years, I've had DPS.
Tanya's first onset of symptoms was during the first year of our marriage, so we've essentially shared her entire journey with Parkinson's together. In the long run, it's made us stronger, individually and as a couple. And that's probably something we'll talk about as this podcast moves forward, is our relationship and how our experience with Parkinson's as a couple has strengthened our relationship.
But this podcast is not just about us. We will be hosting a variety of guests to share information to educate, inspire, and connect the Parkinson's community. Our guests will include persons with Parkinson's, care partners, therapists, social workers, activists, and others like them.
As our podcast moves forward, we'll likely cover advancements in research and new developments in treatments, but we also plan to focus on day-to-day life with Parkinson's. Things like exercise, nutrition, relationships with family and friends, topics like intimacy, dating, and being a parent with Parkinson's. And we hope you'll join us on this journey.
With that introduction, we are so excited to welcome our first guest on PD Connect, Emma Lawton. Welcome, Emma.
Hi, guys.
Emma is from the UK, and like myself, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's at a young age, although she was quite younger than me. She was 29 years old, and we ended up on the same path, but at the same point on the path, but we kind of got there different ways. Emma immediately embraced her diagnosis and took the bull by the horns, whereas I lived in denial. But Emma, you have done so much for awareness of this disease. You've done TED Talks on happiness and confidence. You have the Microsoft Emma Watch. You've done all these amazing things, and I wanted to just have you share your story kind of with our listeners and discuss how you immediately grasped onto this level of confidence and happiness and embrace the disease.
Thank you, Tanya. Well, basically, kind of as a family, we have this weird habit that we sort of, it's a kind of fake it while you make it type attitude, which is sort of get on with stuff while you work out how you feel about it. I think it's kind of come from how my family tend to deal with stuff as well. My dad has a quite unusual for his age eye condition, where he's actually losing his sight. And he kind of paved the way for me, really, and showed me how you could kind of get on with your life and do stuff and be happy with something that, you know, technically really shouldn't be making you feel happy or confident, and actually that you were in control of your own destiny if you did that, which is it's quite a powerful thing, I think. I feel very lucky to have them as my family, really. So, yeah, it kind of spiraled. I did one talk, and then it kind of, lots of other talks led on from that, and I think people were interested in my way of telling my story, and that actually it wasn't a story that was expected. You wouldn't expect someone with Parkinson's to have sort of a happy story and things like that, really. So, sorry, I've got a really epic foot cramp. Am I right to pause for a sec?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I was going to say, as soon as you said that about the foot cramp, I love in the one thing when you said, don't wear heels, wear trainers. Anyone that wears heels and says that they love it, they're lying.
Except for you.
And I also like when you said it's okay to have a rubbish day.
Yeah, I think you have to be honest, I think, about how you feel, because to feel the kind of best of times, you have to feel the worst of times. I think you have to be honest with yourself and sort of know that actually there's going to be hard times, and be honest with people around you and say how you feel. That's really important to me, because then people know how to treat you.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talk about being honest, I mean, I think authenticity, whether it's for Parkinson's or some other kind of subject matter or cause, if you're being authentic, if you're being honest with the audience, it just seems like you connect with people on such a different level, and that's that's kind of been our experience too. Authenticity is something we talk about a lot as being important to us in the way that we communicate either one-on-one with others about life with Parkinson's or our journey together, or whether we're communicating with a group of people about it. It's just be honest and candid about the journey, and they seem to get more out of it, and you seem to make a better connection with them.
That's totally something I would agree with. I think if you are being honest and you're helping more people, I think I've just literally come almost to the end of a 365-day vlogging extravaganza, which when I first started it, I just kind of thought to myself, oh, I need to kind of be pretty all the time. I need to put makeup on. I need to kind of sit in front of the camera and sort of say that everything's positive and good. And actually, by the end of it, I'm sort of, turning up with no makeup on and being honest and speaking about what it's actually like. And I think I'm helping more people now, to be honest. I think, it's good to be positive and it's good to be happy, but only if those are your true feelings. And everyone knows that Parkinson's isn't happy all the time, It can be something you can have a good life with, but actually it's incredibly hard. It's very physically and mentally and emotionally draining. But, being honest with people is kind of the key to helping other people get through it, I think.
Since you brought it up, your PD365 series, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about that? Because it's an amazing project, and I think you've accomplished a lot with it.
Yeah, it was one of those things people always say to me, why did you agree to do it? And then I say, I decided to do it. No one forced me. No one even asked me. I just decided to do it. So it's my own fault, really. But around just under a year ago now, I think it was. So I started on the 10th or 11th of April last year, which is World Parkinson's Day. About a week before, I think, I decided that I wanted to kind of try and start sharing my story through video. And I like a big challenge. I like to kind of go in hard, and rather than sort of go for something small and actually easily achievable, I went for vlogging every day as a project. So I spoke to my friend Mike, who was a videographer, and he said to me, there's no way you'll do it. I tried it and I managed it for about 10 days. And so I just wanted to spite him because I'm really stubborn, I think.
Stubbornness is a good trait, I think, in living daily with Parkinson's. When you first envisioned the idea of the 365, did you have any goals or objectives in mind, or did you just kind of tear off and do it and say, I just want to share my journey, or what? Did you have a vision for it?
It was really just to try and I had maybe two visions for it. One was to kind of help people who had Parkinson's to know that they weren't alone, and to kind of almost share some of my life with them. And I think video is really powerful for that. You can make a real connection with someone across the other side of the world. And I wanted to share other people's stories as well, the people that have been so important to me coming to terms with it. And then also I wanted to kind of educate people who wouldn't normally find out about Parkinson's, who might accidentally stumble across it, or might find it interesting. And actually I think it's achieved both those things, which I'm really pleased about. And I never would have expected the things that have happened would happen during that year. I mean, bad and good, to be honest. My life has changed massively during that time. It's amazing to have a record of it and to kind of see all the things that happened, decisions I made and stuff. So,
right, and it has been an amazing year for you, because you did, during the course of the past year, you did the TED Talk, the 365, obviously there was the Emma Watch project.
Yes, right at the very beginning was actually, I think probably in my first couple of days of the vlog, I actually went out to Seattle and did an on-stage appearance with the CEO, Microsoft CEO, which was kind of an incredible start to my blog, really.
I would say so.
Yeah, you went big.
Yeah, and then I kind of trailed off a little bit after that.
I don't think so.
But I went on a tool ship, like a pirate ship. I was crew on a pirate ship for a week on a tool ship experience, which was amazing. I had a really incredible year, and it's sort of been. I spoke at Downing Street with the Prime Minister of the UK. It's just it's been really incredible. I've had some amazing opportunities. I've had some problems with my neck, which has made me not want to really be that much in front of the camera, but I've kind of forced myself to be, because I think it's important to be honest about that part of the journey as well. When you're feeling broken and not attractive and sort of things like that, it's actually as important to show that part of the journey in the story. It's not all glory, is it really? It's kind of difficulties as well. So.
Absolutely. I think that Parkinson's makes us even more vulnerable as people, and to share that vulnerability with others is very, very challenging.
Yeah, it's been quite fun recently as well, because I've kind of recently, probably in the last sort of 6 months or so, become single, which was another sort of change that happened. And so I've been dating, which has kind of provided lots of stories for the blog, which has been great. But most of them I can't tell because they'd be too sort of I'd probably get sued by people or stuff. But um, it's been an interesting learning curve, because there's actually no more vulnerable a situation than when you're putting yourself out there for dating, is there really? It's kind of, you are at your most raw and vulnerable. So it's been a really interesting process to kind of get used to doing that as well again.
I forgot to share with our listeners that you have you're very witty, and you've actually done a little stand-up comedy.
Well, and actually, I'll ask about that. How did you have you always had an interest in doing stand-up comedy, or was that something more recent?
It's kind of bizarre, actually. I have a habit of sometimes of staying up late and kind of just tinkering around on the internet when I can't sleep, which is bad. You should always, step away from electrical equipment when you're trying to rest. But I went on the internet, and someone had sent me an email about something which was to do with flying lessons, and then someone had sent me an email about something else to do with comedy, like writing a sketch or something. And I thought, oh, that sounds fun. And in my tired state, I applied for both flying lessons and a stand-up comedy slot, and then woke up in the morning and was like, what are you thinking, you idiot? Luckily, the flying lessons never kind of came about, because I think I'd have been really scared, but maybe in the future. But the stand-up comedy people replied to me and said, yeah, sure, come along next week. So I was like, God, panic. But I enjoy kind of, as part of my family, like my dad's very kind of naturally funny. And he's a great storyteller, and we really collect stories in our family, and we love sort of recounting them. So it was kind of a natural thing to do. I didn't really feel that scared about doing it. I mean, it was, my friends were, bless them, were really scared, because they came over before the show and I hadn't done any prep at all. I'd been at a conference all day speaking on something much more serious than my stand-up comedy was, and
Right.
hadn't done any preparation. And he's a copywriter, my friend. He was like, Emma, we've got to write some notes. Come on, this is ridiculous. You're going to die up there. So we wrote some things down and kind of had sort of brief set of notes, but I just felt quite confident that I could do it, and I was so pleased that I wasn't a complete flop. So massive relief.
I was going to say, I love your confidence, because the fact that you decided that you were going to write a book, and then you went ahead and made the Facebook page and sent out save the dates for your book launch party, yet you had not even written one line of the book. I just thought that was wonderful.
And it's weird, because I was never like that really before Parkinson's, before my diagnosis. I think almost Parkinson's has given me that sort of, well, what's the worst that can happen sort of attitude, and actually I'm more willing to try stuff. And I think there's also that kind of element of people being a little softer to you and a little less harsh and a bit less quick to judge. You don't want better treatment, you don't want anyone to treat you differently, but people are kind of wanting you to do well when you seem to kind of be perceived to have like a kind of an underdog situation going on. And I think it kind of, that extra knowing that people are rooting for you really helps. Taking that spiky edge off people really helps.
Going back just for a minute to the 365, so you're wrapping that up now on 10th or 11th, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm frantically trying to I've got about 30 people I still want to interview, which is crazy. I'm going to kind of put some of them in the past to kind of make sure that they kind of fit in. But I've got a few more people I want to talk to. And then I'm doing a kind of bit of a finale video at the moment, which I sent to David Sangster this morning, and it made him cry. So I feel like it's been successful. It made him cry in a nice way, not made him cry in a bad way. But I think... I'm wrapping that up on the 10th or the 11th, and then launching my next project, because I like to have something on the go at any given time, really.
For the 365, what was what was your funniest moment or your most memorable moment? Is there anything that stands out in particular from the journey?
Probably my most memorable moment was being on stage in Seattle at the conference with Satya Nadella from Microsoft. That was like a career, and it was kind of when those sweet spot moments when your personal life and your career and everything you've kind of hoped for like all kind of combined in one, and you suddenly you kind of don't really know what to say. It was a good job I didn't have to say anything. I just had to kind of stand there smiling like an idiot, and it was all right. But I did that quite successfully, I think. So that was an incredible moment. I think probably other than that, I've really enjoyed a lot of the interviews to be honest. I think that was kind of that was something I kind of introduced later on because I realised that people were going to get sick of my voice, and actually something wasn't happening every day to me, and that actually it was okay for that to be the case. That actually there wasn't always supposed to be something happening, and that other people might have stuff happening that I could kind of talk about. And it's been really nice kind of chatting to other people. I've really enjoyed sharing their stories and finding out more about them. And actually a lot of the people I've never met before, and then I'm kind of meeting them for the first time on Skype. So it's pretty lovely. I really enjoyed that.
Well, and that's part of what we hope for and envision is part of this podcast, obviously, is to make those, I mean, as the name suggests, PD Connect, to make those kind of connections with people
Yes.
in the Parkinson's community. Just so our listeners know, where can they find the PD Connect video series?
PD365.
PD365. I'm sorry, I said PD Connect. That's ours.
At the moment, it's on YouTube. So if they basically search for PD365 Emma, they'll probably come to it. That's probably the easiest way to find it. But I've actually got plans for sort of a next project, which will actually involve some of the videos and some of the people that I've interviewed. So I kind of realised that actually interviewing people was really helping other people to solve their problems and to realise they weren't alone, and that actually when you're diagnosed, there's no real kind of, you can go on YouTube and you can search for things, but you kind of inevitably stumble across a cat video or something within about 5 clicks that's completely irrelevant, and you're distracted, and then you've lost track of what you were doing, and someone's telling you some dodgy advice about, cannabis oil or something, and you start getting worried, and it can be an incredibly scary place, the internet, I think. And I think I wanted to kind of almost use the videos that I have and work with sort of 30 to 40 other people with Parkinson's who will regularly vlog on a website called 365s.com, which I'm creating hopefully over the next year. I'm about to open funding for it on Just Giving, crowdfunding to kind of fund the build of the website. And it will basically be just a portal of kind of support and information for people to kind of search for what they're looking for. So you can basically go on and you can kind of type a sentence, which is, I'm worried about the side effects of medication. And it will show you any videos that are kind of to do with medication side effects, dyskinesia, things like that, ICDs. And actually, I'm hoping in the future it will kind of pick up on the word worried and actually serve you videos that are appropriate to your kind of mood and sentiment as well, so it doesn't concern you further. It'll kind of actually uplift you and help you. And that you can actually kind of look on the day and see what people have uploaded. But I want it to be eventually a massive portal for all health conditions that are chronic or long-term, that actually it's a model that can scale from pd.365s.com to be, motor neurone disease or MS or, something else, and that actually it becomes a portal for health conditions and information and support for those living with them, really. So through video blogging.
That's a phenomenal idea and a huge undertaking, it sounds like. When are you planning to launch this?
Well, I'm launching the funding campaign sort of on the 10th and 11th of this month. It's actually live at the moment, but it will be kind of officially launching with kind of press and things like that on the 10th and the 11th. And then I'm kind of keeping that open for probably a couple of months to try and raise the funds I need to actually build the website. And then hopefully just later this year, I'm hoping that I'll be able to get something up and running. So having spoken to a lot of people from the PD community, they've sort of said they think that if they'd had it when they'd been diagnosed, it would have been a lot less scary for them.
Absolutely. I know 10 years ago, actually, this past Saturday was my 10th year anniversary of being diagnosed. And I told someone that, and she goes, should I say congratulations? I'm not really sure how to respond. And is this a good thing? And actually, kind of consistent with your attitude is that I didn't want Parkinson's, but Parkinson's has brought about so many wonderful blessings in my life that I feel fully blessed. And I think that my life is more joyful than it would have been if I didn't have Parkinson's.
I totally agree. And we every year as a family, we celebrate my anniversary. So the 29th of April is a celebration day in our household. We go out and do something as a family, and we celebrate the passing of a year, but the passing of a year and all the amazing things that have happened during it. So it's a really nice attitude to have. I think it really helps you get through it.
Absolutely, and I think that kind of approach is essential to living a joyful life with any kind of chronic condition, like you said. And to go back to something you said a minute ago, I mean, the value of the project that you're talking about. When I can remember when Tanya was first diagnosed, and even before diagnosis, kind of trying to understand what was going on, and then when she was diagnosed, then trying to go on the internet and find information, resources. There's been such an extraordinary change over the last 10 years in terms of the information that's out there. But at that time, what was out there was so, a lot of it was negative. There weren't a lot of people sharing their personal journey. You weren't, I mean, at that time, a lot of it was chat rooms and that sort of thing. But even today, as indicated by the need for this ambitious project that you're undertaking, that there's still not enough, I think, information out there readily available to just connect in some way with people who are living with Parkinson's and to get an honest, whether it's a video or audio or or a blog or whatever it is, but just that I think you can never have enough of people sharing their journey and their way of overcoming difficult days or struggling with particular emotions or whatever. And so Tanya and I both loved the idea. We loved it when we first heard of it.
So much. And the thing I'm really hoping as well is that actually when it kind of expands and becomes other health conditions, there's actually a real benefit to, me perhaps, diving in and looking across the board at sort of a tag that says employment. If I'm having employment problems, perhaps, that actually someone with motor neuron disease or someone with MS could actually be going through the same thing. And actually it's connecting people with similar issues across various conditions as well, because actually we are all going through the same thing. Ultimately, we're trying to live the lives we want to live with something that's hindering us. And I think if we can open it out and make it so that we're all helping each other in some way through that, it'll be a great thing. So I'm kind of excited about the future of it as well, really, and how it can grow.
So you tell our listeners again where they can find the fundraising pages, if you will, as you so they can support your efforts to launch the project. Yeah,
so if they go to justgiving.com, which is traditionally a page for kind of if you're doing a marathon or something, you kind of would do something through Just Giving. But they've actually opened up a crowdfunding section, which is you can actually crowdfund particular projects that you have in mind. So it's on there, and the project is called 365s with an S on the end, all in words, 365. So they'll be able to find it if they go on there. And yeah, my YouTube PD365 will have the links on there as well, so they'll be able to find it on there. But it's I'm not looking for a huge amount, but it's really just to kind of kickstart the project, to build the website, to do it right from the start, because I think accessibility is so important to people with long-term health conditions. It's pointless if you've got a newfangled wonderful site, but it's not intuitive and no one can use it. I'm a designer and things like that by trade, so actually I need to kind of put that into practice and design something that's good from the start, really. So.
Well, and we obviously encourage our listeners to go out and support that project. I know we'll be supporting it, both through the funding side and also from I think you've spoken with Tanya about participating as one of the vloggers. We've obviously covered a lot you've got going on already for Parkinson's Awareness Month, but is there anything else that you have going on during the month of April?
It's not in April, but slightly later after that. I'm actually doing a in the wild experience. So I was at a festival and I met a girl. I was doing a talk, and I at the end of my talk said, does anyone want to go on an adventure with me? Which is probably a foolish thing to say to a room of adventurers who've all climbed Everest and things like that. And a couple of Everest offers that I just said, maybe in the future, and just kind of, very kindly thanked them. But this one girl came to me and she said, let's craft an adventure that's right for you, because she does kind of everyday adventures for everyday women. So we had 150 applications, and we've selected 8 other women to go with us to the woods, basically this forest, and we're going to survive for 5 days on basic rations, basic camping equipment. So we'll have sleeping bags and things like that, but we have to make our own shelter, we have to kind of forage our own food, we have to, whittle our own spoons, it's all very sort of Swiss Family Robinson. But I think it should be a really interesting experience, especially with my neck being the way it is. It's going to be a definite challenge, but I'm up for it, and I think it'll be really nice to connect with some other women who've gone through really difficult things. There's a real mix of sort of situations that have brought the women to apply for it, to want to do this. So some good campfire stories, I imagine, as well. So
Emma, you never cease to amaze me. This is you. I need to become a little bit more adventurous, I think.
No, I mean, we'll see if I come back alive. I'm probably get stung by a stinging nettle or something embarrassing. So we'll see what happens.
I do have to say that was not the response I expected. I thought maybe another speaking engagement, but not 5 days in the woods without. Will this be in the woods in the UK or some other part of the world?
Yeah, in the woods in the UK. I'm not entirely sure where, somewhere, but apparently it has water, like a water source and things like that. And there's kind of people nearby if we need them, but they won't come into the forest unless we need them. So it's kind of safe, but.
It's kind of Hunger Games.
Just a little bit. I hope it doesn't get like that.
Of course.
I think we're going to have to invite you back on just to hear about this. This experience.
I might not speak about it. I might be just completely horrified and just talk about it.
As we kind of come towards the end here, you obviously, as our listeners are appreciating now, manage a very hectic schedule in your daily life and over the course of a year, particularly when you look on the past year. And, I've witnessed my wife do the same thing, balance a full-time job and raising a child and a blog and now a newly launched podcast and speaking engagements and all of those things.
So similar.
Absolutely. What kind of advice do you have for people living with Parkinson's about just managing the daily hectic demands of life while also obviously living with and managing the symptoms of Parkinson's?
I would say do it better than I have, because I've got myself in a situation where I have a prolapsed disc in my neck, and I can imagine that's probably not been helped by the air flight and air travel and stuff like that I've done over the last year. So I would say I'm probably not the best candidate for giving advice on this. I would say look after yourself a little better, try and balance it a bit better, sleep a bit better, eat a bit better. I don't do any of those things, and it's probably going to come up and bite me on the arse at some point. So we'll see what happens there. But I think being honest, I would say I'm not very good at balancing it. I'm really not very good at balancing it, and things struggle and things fall at the wayside because of that, and I'm probably less reliable than I'd like to be. And I think there's probably people out there who are a lot more, who maybe do a lot less, take on a lot less, but actually are still pushing themselves, and perhaps that's a better balance. So I would say probably don't do as I do as I tell you, would be my advice.
This sounds like something that you'll be thinking about and working towards over the course of the next year. That sounds like that's something that you've given thought to, and of how to better strike that balance.
I've thought about it. Whether I'll actually do it is a whole different matter.
I have to tell you that Tanya and I can both understand and appreciate that, because we've talked about it plenty of times, but struggled to strike that balance. Sort of looking forward, you brought up something that I think would be a topic that we would want to tackle at some point on this podcast, and one of our goals for it really is to talk about some of the subjects that aren't necessarily covered much in whether it be in podcasts or video series or other information out there. Things like intimacy, for example. We've talked about doing a show on that, and you talked about dating, and and touched on that. And I think those are the kind of things that we would like to cover on the podcast and share with listeners, and bring in people and interview them and talk about that is one of our visions anyway for this.
I totally agree with you, and I've actually run out of time to do it on my PD365, but I wanted to cover ICDs, I wanted to cover intimacy, I was going to talk with I had a woman who works as kind of a sex therapist. She was going to kind of come and give some advice, and I had all these things that I had planned, and I've just completely run out of time, but I'm hoping to bring them into 365s if I can, because I think especially the topic of sort of impulse control disorder is actually a really important one that not a lot of people talk about. Relationships are really difficult, it's things that people kind of know are difficult, but no one's really broaching them, and I think if you do, it'll be a great thing.
We will start to put a plan in works to bring you back to talk about that, to talk about dating and we will touch on things like intimacy and other sort of, I'm not going to call them taboo subjects, but less covered subjects in the future.
Subjects that people don't feel comfortable talking about, but they are part of our lives and they're real, and it makes us happy or sad.
Right. And
They're things that people talk about as well, I think. They're the things that people kind of have little concerns about, but they don't know where to find the information about them. They don't want to search on the internet, and it's kind of knowing that other people are talking about it, that it's okay to talk about it is really important, I think.
Absolutely. I think that what we'll find, I look forward to seeing what we learn through that journey, because obviously for us, this is, for Tanya and I, this is a journey as well, as we'll be learning through this process about ourselves and about our own experience with Parkinson's and learning from others. And
so it's really fascinating, and I think actually I've learned a lot over the course of my vlog. For the whole kind of year, I've learned a lot, mostly from speaking to other people, but also from watching my own kind of behaviour and to kind of see how I respond to stuff. And I think it's really interesting when you do something that kind of documents a period of time to learn more about yourself, to learn from others. I feel like I'm so much more knowledgeable a year on than I was before about myself, my condition. I actually can go in and talk to my consultant now and say, I think I should be on this medication. I don't agree with what you're saying. I'm not suggesting everyone should do that, but I think, to kind of be in control of your Parkinson's, you almost need to kind of put a mirror on yourself sometimes. And sometimes that mirror, you need to kind of reflect back other people and kind of see what sits well with you. Hear what other people are saying and work out whether that's something you agree with or don't is a great start.
I think that's a great point. Well, Emma, we've really enjoyed having you on our first ever podcast. Appreciate your patience with us as we're newbies at this.
It's always a pleasure speaking with you, Emma.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us. You can find Emma's project, PD365 blog, on her YouTube channel, PD365 Emma Lawton. If you would like to donate to her new 365s project, visit justgiving.com/crowdfunding/365s.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of PD Connect. Please help us connect with the Parkinson's community by spreading the word about this podcast. You can find us online at pdconnect.org and on Facebook at PD Connect Podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at PD_Connect. Again, that's PD_Connect. Until next time, this is Chad and Tanya signing off.